Morgan Stanley, Goldman Sachs, and Charles Schwab. These are some of the largest banks in the US at number 5, 6, and 11. They're also partnered with American Express and have secret versions of the Platinum card. One being super easy to get, while another one potentially requiring up to $10 million in assets. We did a similar video 6 years ago back in 2017, and we have seen the landscape change pretty dramatically. Two of the versions disappearing and also the card by itself changing. Back then, the annual fee was just $550. In today's video, we'll look at each card and its superpower, how to get them, and also what I would do given the current one platinum rule that just came into play. Big favor, give this a thumbs up to help with the algorithm, that way other people who need to see this can see this, and if you know anyone else who might be affected by this, who might benefit, consider sharing this with them. As a starting point, there are a lot of similarities with these cards. Using ice cream as an example, you have the normal one from American Express, and that's the vanilla. You can kind of think of the other versions like flavors that work off vanilla. So think cookies and cream and maybe cookie dough. Same base, but a little bit different. So first off, all of these cards come in at a $6.95 annual fee. Some of them do have waivers and additional benefits, but we'll get into that. All of them come with the same base credits. This includes $200 for Uber that's broken down monthly, $200 airline incidental, $100 Sachs as 50/50, $200 for hotels, for FHR as well as hotels collection, and also $240 for digital entertainment. That's $940 in credits that are relatively easy to use. There are additional credits that are less quantifiable to me, such as the Equinox one as well as Walmart Plus. Okay, cool, so same annual fee and credits, but what are the differences? Starting with the least useful, we have Goldman Sachs. When you spend $100,000 on the Goldman Sachs Platinum each year, you're going to earn an additional 40,000 MR points. So put another way, you're getting an extra 0.4x MR points for that first 100K in spend. Also, this data point is from 15 years ago, so they might have changed it. It's definitely extreme and not worth chasing in my opinion. Okay, moving over to Schwab, one reason people really like it is the ability to cash out your points for pretty good value. You can take your American Express MR points and then move them over to your brokerage. When you log into your account, you're going to see an invest with rewards option, and the rest of it's pretty straightforward. You have to enter a few things and the minimum redemption is 1,000 points. So for example, your card number as well as all the other details. When redeeming points, there are a lot of different levels, but for all of them, it's going to be 1.1 cents per point. 1,000 points, $11, 10,000 points, $110, 100,000 points, $1,100. Note that there is no bonus or advantage for redeeming more points, even though it kind of looks like it would. For the sake of this example, let's redeem 1,000 points. They'll ask you to confirm that you want to redeem the points and that it's going into the right brokerage account. Once you press redeem, you cannot undo this, so make sure you want to do it. Once you press the button, you'll get a confirmation screen, and they do mention 4 to 6 business days, but that's typically not the case. It's usually immediate or maybe within the first hour, unless there's something wrong with your account. So for example, right now as of filming, it's 2:48 a.m., and logging into my Schwab account at 2:50 a.m., it already showed up. This is a perk that people love because it's otherwise hard to get cash-based value. So normally with American Express points, if you redeem it as a statement credit, it's only 0.6 cents per point. 100,000 points would only be 600 in value. That's why I'm always scared to recommend the gold card to new people, especially the ones that might not be on team travel and who don't know if they want to get the platinum in the future. 4x sounds great, but when you only get 0.6 cents per point, that's only 2.4%. With the Schwab Platinum, you almost get 2x the value, so 100,000 points is $1,100. One of the other benefits is the Schwab appreciation bonus. If you have at least $250K in assets but less than $1 million, then you get a $100 statement credit. If you have more than $1 million but less than $10 million, then you get a $200 statement credit. If you have more than $10 million, then it's a $200 statement credit and also a $800 cash bonus reward deposited into your Schwab brokerage. Note that this is every year, but also it's a large amount of money. Alternatively, you also get the $200 plus $800 if you are part of Schwab Private Wealth Services. The minimum for this is $1 million though and has 0.8% fees, so about $8,000 in fees per year. Basically not worth chasing unless you were already using it. Last one is going to be Morgan Stanley. The biggest draw for us is going to be obtaining one additional Platinum card for no additional annual fee. So the first authorized user Platinum card is a no annual fee card, and then subsequent ones are $195, similar to all the other Platinum cards. This is great if you have a family member that can't justify the Platinum card but wants it because they travel enough. Or maybe a player 2 significant other where your household just doesn't need 2 Platinums. One very fair question I've gotten is whether they're going to pull this benefit. Maybe, but it seems doubtful given that it's being advertised pretty aggressively on their co-branded pages. By no means is this a mistake. Similar to the Schwab one, you can redeem your points for elevated value. Here though, it's only 1 cent per point, so 50K points is 500. In that case, if you are cashing out a lot of money, then the Schwab one is a better pick. Still though, I think this feature of cashing out is more so for people that spend a lot of money, so they earn a ton of points, they redeem their points, but they can't redeem all of them. Dave Portnoy or a lot of other business people that spend a few million a year are a pretty good example of this. The last perk of the Morgan Stanley version is going to be the waiver, also known as the $695 annual engagement bonus. It sounds good on paper, but there are a lot of hoops to jump through. Okay, so how do you get these cards? With the normal vanilla version, you would just apply. In fact, I'd argue that this is the best starting point for Platinum cards and also American Express. The reason being that you can get elevated offers via card match. We have a blog post walking through this if you want to Google card match ask Sebi, and I'll also link it down below. The easiest way to think of it is that when you're not a customer, American Express dangles elevated offers in front of you like a carrot to entice you to sign up. Once you're a customer, you still can get targeted offers, but it's just a lot less likely. Think about how back in the day a bank might give you a toaster for opening up a bank account, but once you're a customer, they don't really care. Regardless of the version you go for, make sure that the card actually makes sense for you. You can use your calculator to adjust your numbers for your own purpose so that you're not overvaluing anything. So I get value, but you might not. I'd rather you make an educated decision where you're brutal with the credits. That way you have a good idea of the best case and also the worst case. With that said, if you want to learn about cards, whether they're Platinum or pretty much anything else, and you want to support the channel, we do have links on the website, asksebi.com, and also down below in the description box. Make sure the links are competitive, that the cards make sense for you, but otherwise, it is a huge way to support the channel, so thank you guys in advance. Okay, but what about the Schwab card? With this one and all the other cards, you do need to have a relationship. Also note that you cannot product change the normal Platinum into the Schwab or vice versa. You would need to apply for it as a new product. There are some exceptions, but it's not things that are in your control. So for example, in the past, when the Mercedes-Benz and also the Ameriprise cards were discontinued, then they product changed those cards into the vanilla Platinum. It was their decision, it was on the back end, and you had no control. Lucky for us, Schwab is one of the easiest relationships to have. You can either have the Schwab One account or the Schwab General Brokerage account, whether traditional, Roth, or rollover IRA. The best part about Schwab is that there is no minimum, so you're not going to get hit with fees. In our case, it's the easiest co-branded card to go for. Make a Schwab account, log in, and it should be an option. Okay, so Schwab's the easiest. Which one's the hardest? Probably Goldman Sachs. This card was initially targeted towards their private wealth management clients, so people with millions in assets. As of filming in 2023, the minimum is $10 million in investable assets. So not your startup equity or your house, but investable cash equivalent assets. There is a huge exception though. When the card was announced back in 2008, it was accessible to all US employees. All US employees who have a US legal and mailing address are eligible. You also need to have a Goldman Sachs brokerage account. So I guess any employee that's eligible for a brokerage account can get this card. I'm not sure if that's changed in the last 15 years because there's no public way to apply for this and I haven't seen that many data points. Okay, but what about Marcus? Marcus is by Goldman Sachs. Does it count? Not from my understanding because it's not a brokerage, and also I just haven't seen any data points. I think they would try to keep this for their private wealth management clients. It would be cool if they did it, but I don't think it's going to happen. Okay, what about the Morgan Stanley version? So we have an easy one, we have a hard one. This is probably the most annoying of the bunch. The key thing we're looking for is a Morgan Stanley investment account. In the past, this was super easy because they had something called Access Investing, which was pretty much the robo-advisor and only required $5,000. In 2023, that's not the case anymore. You need to have a brokerage account of Morgan Stanley, but it does not include E-Trade accounts. If you have E-Trade, you can get the Morgan Stanley Blue Cash Preferred, but not the Platinum. Okay, great. What works? You have a few different options: an active asset account, an advisory account, or an IRA. Advisory accounts have very high minimums, and then an IRA might not be worth it unless it's already through your work. Your best bet is the active asset account, the AAA. As of filming, this account has a $150 annual fee, and you also have to pay fees for other things, and there's also a minimum of $25,000. If you don't mind the capital requirement, then on paper, it can make sense. In effect, you're paying a $150 annual fee instead of paying the $195 to add and authorize user Platinum. If you plan to keep it long-term and your player 2 doesn't want to get their own Platinum card, then this is an option. Otherwise, it might not be worth the stress, especially if you already have a brokerage account somewhere else that you like and doesn't have as many fees. One of the other interesting things about the Morgan Stanley Platinum is the waiver. So this might be worth it, but you're also jumping through a lot of hoops. You can open up the Platinum Cash Plus account to get a $695 annual engagement bonus, which pretty much covers the annual fee for the Platinum card. This account does have a $55 monthly account fee, but you can avoid this. There's two requirements: you have to deposit $5,000 every month, and you have to keep $25,000 daily balance in that account. Note that you don't have to do this if you don't want to. This is more so for the waiver. If the requirements for this change in the future, I'll pin a comment down below. That way I'll try to keep this up to date without having to remake the video each time. Okay, so a lot of options. What would Sebi do? I would look at this as 3 different chunks. So you have the welcome bonus, you have retention offers, and then you have the value of the card. For the welcome offer, one key consideration is going to be the 1 platinum rule. If you have or had any of the platinums, you won't get additional platinum intro bonuses. Given that, you'd want to go for the card that offers you the highest intro bonus. That pretty much means that unless you're traveling a lot in the next few months, you're probably better off waiting for that elevated offer and making sure that you maximize it. If you're only allowed to get 1 bill, then you might as well wait until it's a good bill. Number 2 is going to be retention offers. If you have a card and after the first year you decide to maybe cancel it and you contact them, oftentimes they'll give you an offer to keep the card, to retain you as a customer. It feels weird, but it is a pretty common practice in a lot of spaces, so back in the day, Xfinity used to give a lot of retention offers. You can generally get a retention offer every other year. The retention process is also a giant black box, and we don't really know what happens. I wouldn't be surprised if they look at your profitability and how you use your cards. Regardless of how you slice it, I'd hazard a bet that the vanilla card has more retention offers. The idea being that American Express owns that relationship by itself compared to the co-branded cards where they're sharing that relationship and also the income. That's currently what we're seeing on Flyer Talk, where there are more retention offers for the vanilla platinum. At the same time, you could argue that, well, obviously there are more vanilla platinum offers because there's more vanilla cards. I agree, and that makes a lot of sense, but at the same time, this is Flyer Talk. A lot of people are also in kind of our niche, and they have a lot of cards. It's not a random person on the street or someone on Twitter, it's pretty much the super user community. What about long-term and the other perks? I would say that the Morgan Stanley version is the best one, but also just has a lot of hoops, and it might not be worth the effort. Okay, but what about keeping the Schwab card? Schwab is in an interesting spot due to the 1.1 cents per point, but I kind of still feel like it's more of a get the card if you need to cash out rather than to keep it. Maybe I'm overvaluing the retention side of things, but I think for a lot of people, there's not that much of a use case for cashing out these points. Basically, if you're on Team Cashback and you're going to do that anyways, you oftentimes accumulate all the points and then you use that as your exit mechanism, or your life raft or golden parachute or any other way you want to think of it. Okay, given everything, how would you apply? I'd probably start at the vanilla and then move into the other ones that you might be interested in. Obviously, there are a lot of things you can do, but whether it's worth your time or your effort is another question. Again, if you want to learn about cards, we have links on the website, asksebi.com, and also down below in the description box. If you made it to this point in the video, then leave a juice box emoji in the comments down below, and I'll try to heart it and also respond. My question for you is, which of these platinum cards do you think is the best? Do you think the Morgan Stanley one is worth the squeeze or too much effort? And also, how would you play this? Let me know and everyone else know in the comments down below. Big favor, thumbs up, share this with a friend, but otherwise, hope you guys liked it. See you guys next time.